Hello students. Let us begin with the today's lecture content. Actually, in the last class we discussed on a Zoom video call, Zoom video lecture, we discussed a little bit about the previous topics. There were certain doubts with the students. So we discussed some few doubts from unit 4, and we discussed quite a bit about unit 5 also. So today I'm just going to cover this unit 6. And if you refer your syllabus, unit 6 contains the details of vehicle crash test. Okay, the official name of this unit, if I suggest, the official name of this unit is crash worthiness and crash testing. This is the official name of this unit, crash worthiness and crash testing. Okay, so these two terms, we'll try to understand the two terms, what is crash worthiness, what is crash testing. So we'll try to discuss them in the same topic. You can see an image also of a vehicle crashing into uh, you can say an object to test certain parameters. What are those parameters, how the testing has been done, what are the details, so that we will be discussing under this same topic. Okay. Now if I talk about the first term, that is crash worthiness, what does a crash worthiness means? Okay, so basically you can read it also, that crash worthiness is, suppose, see, road accidents are inevitable to be stopped. Okay, so in order to, you can say, minimize the outcome, minimize the negative effects of a crash. See, like suppose a vehicle is getting crashed, there are, what is the maximum loss you can occur? That is, the maximum loss is the loss of life. Fine. So how to make a vehicle crash worthy? Crash worthy means to have a minimum loss, or to at least to you can say minimize the loss, either by protecting the life of the, you can say, occupant, or in some severe cases there will be permanent injuries, permanent disability due to the, you can say, crash. So to avoid such situations also during a crash, the crash worthiness of a vehicle is assessed. If the vehicle is getting crashed, it should be designed, it should have those you can say provisions by which the passenger could be protected from getting, you can say, from getting died or getting permanently disabled from it should be designed in such a way that the, you can say, severe injuries should be avoided. So if the vehicle is designed in such a way, after testing the vehicle is rated as that, whether the vehicle is crash worthy or not. And if it is a crash worthy vehicle, there are certain rating parameters, certain ratings are assigned to that vehicle. You might have heard about 5-star rating, 3-star rating, 4-star rating. So such type of rating will be given to the vehicle according to its worthiness, according to the vehicle worthiness. So that is what crash worthiness means. It means the ability of a vehicle to protect its occupant from, you can say, from maximum damage. Okay, so that does means about crash worthiness. And in the second point, you can see that the crash worthiness, there are different ways to assess the crash worthiness of a vehicle. It could be done either by computer simulation models, okay, or either it is done by a experimental model. See, during BTech you might have heard about that there are two types of testing: destructive testing and non-destructive testing. So these type of experiments are called as destructive testing. So during the destructive testing, crash worthiness of a vehicle can be assessed. Okay. Now, what are the criterias according to which the vehicle is certain to be crash worthy or not? Fine. So there are several criterias by which we can assess a vehicle to be crash worthy or not. Some of them includes the deformation of the vehicle, how the vehicle is getting deformed, what is the deformation pattern of a vehicle. We will be discussing about the deformation pattern in a little detail in coming slides. Okay. How much is the change in the acceleration of the vehicle or the passenger? And suppose whatever the passenger is vehicle, how much rapidly changing, how rapidly the acceleration or the vehicle body or the passenger body is changing, that will be assessed. And of course the probability of injury for the vehicle human body is also being assessed during these tests. Okay. Now talking about the probability of injury. Fine. If the probability of injury, see, how can you find the probability of injury? There are other parameters for finding the probability of injury. So some of the parameters includes the forces which are generated on the vehicle, on the human body or the vehicle body, the acceleration under which the body undergoes, and the deformation in the body also. These things correlate the risk of injury. Fine. Okay. So these are the certain parameters which will be assessed or which will be watched during the crash worthiness or crash testing of the vehicle. Okay. Now moving to the next slide. What is the principle of crash testing? Okay. So in this particular content, under this particular content, we are going to discuss about the principles of crash testing. Okay, now you can read the first point also, that yes, there is no crash is the best possible best condition, but as I have said earlier also, it is inevitable to avoid crashes on the roads. But we can minimize their effect. So how to minimize their effect? By testing the vehicle, by providing a crash test, and just to see what are the, you can say, loopholes, what are the limitations, what are the problems with during a crash. So that we can work upon it and we can minimize their outcomes, their effects. Fine. So we'll try to reduce the effects of crash testing, fine, by including maybe different things, by assessing the risk. Fine. So far we have some you can say basic features in the vehicle, like airbags or seat belts. So these have been included in the vehicle because of years of testing have been done on the vehicles, and their, you can say, usability have been, you can say, assessed or read, that yes, these components should be there in a vehicle to, you can say, minimize the chance of injury or minimize the chance of losses. Okay. Now, most of the crash tests around the world is, you can say, is conducted in a particular speed range. So, for an average speed, for an average speed of, let's say, 56 kilometer per hour, the crash test will be done. So, during the crash test, we'll assume that if the vehicle is initially running at this at the speed, so we can calculate the kinetic energy you can say possessed by the vehicle. And suppose if the vehicle is crashing onto some other object, so its kinetic energy is obviously is going to change, is going to reduce. Fine. So change in kinetic energy will be absorbed in the vehicle as well as in the passengers. Okay. So as the vehicle is undergoing a crash, the kinetic energy is decreasing, kinetic energy of the passenger as well as vehicle is decreasing. Now, in order to minimize that risk of injury, what is a point should be taken care is that the rate of decrease of kinetic energy will be as low as possible. That means kinetic energy should be reduced very slow. Otherwise, what will happen if the kinetic energy rapidly decreases? That means it will cause a severe injury in the vehicle, because the force impulse, the impact of the force of that crash will be very severe for a human body to sustain that force, and there will be internal injuries or other external injuries may be possible in the human body. Fine. So basics of the crash testing depends upon the idea that whenever the crash is happening, the rate of decrease of kinetic energy should be as low as possible. Okay. And so that the momentum change of the body should be as low as possible, and the impulse, the impact of the force should be gradually you can say delivered to the human body. Fine. So this will reduces, or this will decrease the chance, probability of you can say injury. Okay. So this is the basic idea of crash testing, and to achieve this condition, several number of components, like you can say the idea of airbags. So that is the idea of airbags. Usage of airbags also helps in this point. Suppose if there is no, if there is a vehicle without an airbag, and it undergoes a crash, so there are chance that the head of the passenger will be, you can say, will be impacted against a solid object, which will lead to a higher impact, higher impulse force, and you can say large decrease in the kinetic energy at a very small time, in a very small time. But if at the same time, if the same passenger is you can say striking against a airbag, and since airbag is a soft material, so the impact of the force or the impulse of the force will be low, and the rate of decrease of kinetic energy will be very low, and this will lead to lesser injury of the passenger. I hope this point is clear. See, from this graph also the same point have been discussed, like in the very first image. Suppose if the deceleration is very rapid, this graph have been plotted deceleration versus time. So if the deceleration is very rapid, fine, in that case there will be a high impulse collision, and due to this high impulse collision, what is happening, there are chances there, see, a large amount of force is generated in the human body in a very small amount of time. So that means there will be a rapid decrease in the kinetic energy, and which will lead to severe injuries in the passenger. But if at the same time, if the, you can say, deceleration is gradual, is not very fast as compared to the first case, when in this case the chance of injury would be decreased to a higher value, and this will lead to a safer crash, or I can say this type of crash will be more crash worthy as compared to this crash. So you can have the idea of crash worthiness from this graph also. Okay, so same point have been discussed about the impulse. Impulse is the is the time. So if the force is, you can say, after the crash, force suddenly travel to the passenger body, so such type of forces are called as high impulse forces or high impulse crash. So this will lead to a sudden decrease or sudden change in the acceleration or deceleration of the body, which leads to higher injury. Fine. So we should avoid having such scenarios, such situations, and in order to avoid such scenarios, the vehicle should be designed that during a crash, the transfer of the force should be gradual, as low as possible, so that the decrease in the kinetic energy will be controlled, and the force transmission to the passenger body will be in a controlled manner. Fine. So that has been discussed here, that there will be enormous change in the momentum if there is a sudden, you can say, transfer of the force. There will be enormous change in the momentum of the occupant, and which is the reason of injury for a passenger in a crash. Okay. So to avoid such situation, what efforts have been done, are being done here around the globe in the development of the vehicle body has been discussed over here. Now to change the momentum gradually, uh, some of the examples, like in the vehicle frame, when you're designing a frame, there are certain crumple zones are provided. Now before discussing this point, I would like you to understand that there could be two types of design of the frames, and that we have discussed in the previous semester also, and in this semester also we had discussed that when we are designing a frame, so frame could be designed in two ways. Like a frame could be very rigid, a rigid frame. So what, and a frame which could be, you can say, which could not be very rigid, it should be a flexible construction. So if a vehicle with a very rigid frame undergoes a crash, what outcomes it can do is, if the vehicle is having the member of the frame is rigid, that means when that vehicle undergoes a crash, okay, when that vehicle undergoes a crash, okay, instead of the, you can say, deformation of the frame members, instead of the deformation of the frame members due to crash, since the frame members are rigid, they will not undergo deformation, and they will transfer that force towards the passenger compartment. Okay, and that will be more risky, because if that force suddenly transfer to the passenger compartment, there will be risk of the passenger to, you can say, to be exposed to the injuries. And at the same time, if I am designing a vehicle which is having a frame which is more flexible, so when such vehicles undergoes a crash, the member of the frame will deform itself, and it will try to, you can say, absorb the crash force and transfer a, you can say, lesser amount of force towards the passenger compartment. Fine. So which will be, you can say, a safer option as compared to the previous example. So in order to provide, you can say, a longer time for the transmission of the crash force, there are crumple zones, you can say, designed in the vehicle frame at the front and at the rear also, so that upon crashing, first of all, these from the vehicle frame will be crashed, or the vehicle frame will be deformed from these crumple zones. So they will absorb a large amount of impact force or the crash force within this region, and a very less amount of force will be transferred towards the passenger compartment, and thus it will lead to a safer crash. Okay. But other than these crumple zones, there are many other passive safety units are also included in the vehicle. See, during, I think, in before the midterm, we have discussed a topic there. We discussed about active and passive safety systems. So there are a lot of passive safety units are also mounted in the vehicle nowadays. Passive safety systems are those units which will, you can say, minimize the effect of a crash. So during a crash, if the crash happens, what are the units which will try to minimize the effect? So those units are called as passive units. So a lot of passive units are also included in the vehicles nowadays. We will discuss those passive units in a while. Some of the passive units like seat belts is one of the passive units. Now seat belts are provided with pre-tensioners and force limiters. Okay, so these pre-tensioners and force limiters will become activated whenever the vehicle undergoes a crash. See, try to understand a situation. Suppose you are wearing a you are having a seat belt, and suppose your vehicle is going undergoing a crash. So in that case, your body will try to move forward. And if suppose if your seat belt is rigid, if your seat belt is not having flexibility, so what will happen? Your seat belt will try to pull you back with a larger force. And so what will happen? Your seat belt may try to compress your chest region or your waist region against your movement, and that will lead to that will be risky for your internal organs. That seat belt may compress them. Seat belt may you can say provide loss to them. Okay, it's risky. So therefore the seat belts are provided with pre-tensioners and force limiters. So what will happen during a crash? If your body is moving forward, a very gradual amount of the force applied by the seat belts to resist your movement will be gradually applied on you, so that your you can say your body will not undergo sudden compression due to the seat belts. Okay, so such type of things have been, you can say, taken care over here in this point. Next is airbags. So as soon as your vehicle undergoes you can say collisions, airbags will deploy and it will absorb the forward movement of the passengers or the driver, and the driver will collide against those airbags in soft airbags as compared to hard dashboard or windscreen or you can say roof. So which will lead to you can say gradual decrease in the kinetic energy of the body of the passenger or the driver. Okay. So what are the other passive safety systems? You can see a whiplash protector. A whiplash protector, most of you also know that there are head restraints on the seats. Fine. So we can adjust also in some vehicles. There is an adjustment also provided in the headrest. So that is also a part of a passive safety system. How it is acting as a passive safety system? Suppose you are sitting on a inside a car which is let's say which is driving slowly, or suppose you are sitting inside a car which is not moving, fine, and suddenly a vehicle from the rear word or from the backward hits your vehicle. So suddenly your vehicle will start moving forward. There will be impact force on the vehicle which is forward, and your body, since it was initially at rest, your body will try to move backwards. Fine. Since your back is the movement of the back is, you can say, limited by the backrest of the seat. But if your head is not covered due to that support, your head will move backward and there will be injury in your neck. Fine. So such type of you can say condition is called as whiplash. Fine. So in order to such whiplash situation, there are headrest available in the vehicle. Other than that, we have discussed about seat belts and airbags. So these are other passive safety units, and you can read about other also. So these are the passive safety units provided in the vehicle. Okay. Now discussing about the different types of crash tests. What are the different types of crash tests? So these are full front crash test, or I can say frontal crash test. When the vehicle is there is a head-on collision, vehicle is striking the object in front. So such type of crash tests are called as frontal crash test. Okay, there could be a stationary object, or there could be another vehicle coming from the front, or there could be a vehicle parked over here, and if a vehicle gets collided into that vehicle, that those type of vehicles are those type of crashes are called as frontal crash test. So frontal crash test mostly you can say carried out with the help of a stationary object or a wall, against a wall. Next is a moderate overlap test. Now moderate overlap test will be what kind of situation? I want you to tell you that, suppose if instead of a full head-on collision, if instead of a full head-on collision, if your vehicle is you can say colliding with a wall. Suppose if your vehicle is colliding with a wall partially, okay, or if your vehicle is colliding with another vehicle partially from the sides, maybe, when such type of tests, such type of crashes are called as overlap crash test. Okay. See in this line also, only a part of the front of the car impacts with a barrier. Now that barrier could be a wall, that barrier could be a vehicle, and that barrier could be a tree. Okay, so such type of you can say crash are called as overlap test. Fine. So these are also subtypes of you can say crash test, but they are see what is the difference between this test and the previous test is a very small fraction of area is you can say undergoing this test. A very small fraction of area is undergoing that crash overlap crash. So it that means a large amount of energy has to be stored, or crash energy has to be stored in a very small area, which is more you can say dangerous situation. So this is what about the overlap test. Now overlap test could be also a small overlap from the driver side, a small overlap on the passenger side, front passenger side, and there could be small overlap at the rear passenger side also. These are the different types of overlap test, and there are certain agencies which are conducting such overlap test. You can read their names also. So this is also kind of a small overlap test, but at the passenger side, right? A very small portion, like a corner of a vehicle, is you can say subjected to a barrier, right? Now this is a side impact test. Suppose if you're driving a vehicle, and suppose it's a four-way side. Okay, it's a four-way side. Suppose you're driving a vehicle in this direction, and suddenly, let's say, if you're driving in this direction, and suddenly another vehicle from this direction arrives and strikes your vehicle from the side, fine. So in such situations, your vehicle will be impacted from the side, fine. And the you can say chances of you can say risk or chances of injury will be more in such types of crash, because at the sides there are no, see, in the front there is the placement of engine and other components are there, so the chances of impact traveling into the passenger cabin will be lesser as compared to a side impact test. Okay, so therefore it is very important to provide safety from the sides. Next is a pole impact test. Now pole impact test is kind of a difficult test, because see, let's say if you're driving a vehicle, and suppose you are colliding against a pole, and so pole is, it's also, I can say, it's a kind of a overlap test, but since in the overlap test still the area under the crash is very great, significantly greater as compared to pole impact test. Pole impact test means a very small, you can see over in this image, a very small area is subjected to the crashing, and that means this much small amount of area is has to absorb the, you can say, total amount of crash energy, which is more again dangerous in such situations. Now next is a rollover test. Rollover test is basically, suppose if you're taking a very sharp corner, or if you're riding on a very, you can say, banked road. So vehicle is tilted to one of the sides, and there are chances that the vehicle may overroll, okay, overturn. Your vehicle may overturn in this manner, fine. So in that case, there are forces generated in the vehicle in a 360-degree rotation, fine. Suppose your vehicle is turning upside down, that means the roof of the vehicle is undergoing a lot of load, and the roof is supported by the pillars, fine. So the strength of pillars will be tested, basically under this test, during this test, fine. Then there are roadware hardware crash tests. Now the hardware crash test means to check the hardwares of the vehicle. This type of crash test will be done. Like suppose you're not checking the hardware, but let's say if you're driving a vehicle, and suddenly you crash into the roadside barriers or roadside cushions, like there are cushions provided on the highways, you can say water tanks or water tankers are provided at the sides, just in case if you lose control of your vehicle and suppose your brake fails. So when you're crashing into those road barriers, what kind of injuries, or what kind of uh, suppose you boom barrier during the toll, so if your vehicle crashes into them, so what kind of injuries or what kind of outcomes could be observed. So that will be observed during the roadside hardware crash test. Okay, this was the test I was talking about, sled testing. Sled testing is, suppose it is this type of test is done to check the operation of the passive safety units of your vehicle, passive safety units like airbags or the seat belt. So such type of test has been done. So suppose your vehicle have been parked, and suddenly a component, you can say basically a hydraulic unit, is used in such type of test. A hydraulic ram is used. Suppose your vehicle is parked and suddenly a hydraulic ram applies a force. Suppose this is the way, and this is your vehicle. You are parking your vehicle here, and suddenly a hydraulic ram exerts pressure on this vehicle from this side. So your vehicle will be suddenly, you can say, a jerk is experienced on this vehicle, and suddenly the airbag should open, the seat belt should be open, and you can say working of those components will be testing during a sled test. You can see this image also. Fine. So these are the different types of crash tests which are performed on a vehicle. Apart from this, there is a pedestrian testing is also done, where the vehicle is where a dummy has to see where a vehicle will be crashed into a dummy, and it will be checked what are the different types of injuries can be you can say can be done to a passenger which is colliding with the vehicle. Fine. So that is called as pedestrian crash test. Okay. Now talking about the very important component of or very important feature of a crash testing, that means a crash test dummies. Suppose we are crashing a vehicle. So after crashing a vehicle, see, crash tests are not cheap tests. They are not, you can say, cheap to test. The vehicles are not cheap to, because you are damaging the whole vehicle and it is a costly test. So during a crash test, the researchers or the, you can say, scientists want to obtain the maximum data from the crash test. For that, they apply a large number of cameras, very high resolution cameras, which can take a very you can say higher number of frames per second pictures. And at the same time, we are placing dummies in the vehicles instead of a human, which is a human replicate of a which are human replicate, which are sitting inside a vehicle. So they will be placed inside a vehicle, and those dummies have a number of data collection mechanisms. So whenever the vehicle undergoes a test, those dummies will also undergoes a test crash, and a large number of data is obtained from those dummies after the crash. Fine. So that is what discussed in this presentation also. You can see this the job of the dummy is to be simulated, to be replicated as a human being. Fine. So after the crash, the data would be collected from them. Now how the data will be collected from them, that we will be discussing here after this. Fine. So in most of the countries like US, there are certain standards of the dummy. So most of the countries are using a type dummy of hybrid 3 types. So I would recommend you to different types to study about the different types of dummy. Nowadays we are using a dummy of hybrid 3. Fine. Which and why we are using these types of dummy? Because they guarantees a consistent results. Fine. So they are built of some materials which are similar to physiology of the human body. For example, their spines are made up of metal disc and rubber pads. Fine. Their dimension will be again in the range of what is the average size of a, you can say, person, maybe a female person, male person, or a child. So such all the different types of dummies will be made over here, and their dimensions, average dimension size is also one of the example is also given. Okay. Now those dummies, to collect the data, and so in those dummies there are a number of sensors which are mounted in those dummies. Some of the sensors are like accelerometers, load sensors, and motion sensors. If you remember in the very first slides, I have told you about in the crash worthiness, to assess the probability of injury, these parameters are being assessed: force, acceleration, and deformation. So those, to measure these things from the dummies, there are sensors mounted on the dummies, and you can see those sensors. Okay, accelerometer sensor, load sensors, and motion sensors. So basically accelerometer are the device which measures the acceleration in a particular direction. So these sensors are mounted in every part of the dummy which is placed in the vehicle. Now what will happen if that car is, you can say, crashed in some wall? The speed of the car will change, kinetic energy will change, and since the vehicle will undergo a deceleration, and again the dummy will also undergo deceleration, so the rate of deceleration will at different parts of the human body will be assessed by the data from the accelerometer. Fine. See, it has been written here also, the crash test dummy has accelerometer all over it. Fine. Maybe from head to toe. Fine. So this accelerometer will measure the acceleration of different parts of the dummy and will assess the rate of change of kinetic energy, whether it is slow or high. Okay. You can see the graphs also. This is the acceleration graph against time. So here you can see that acceleration has changed very rapidly here. So that means the kinetic that means the kinetic energy of the dummy has changed very rapidly, which is not suitable for a human body, and the human body is more prone to the risk, fine, in such type of cars. And from this data also you can observe that the head of the dummy has, you can say, has undergoes a very fast reduce or decrease in the kinetic energy during a crash, which is again very dangerous for the human body to undergo such situations. So such type of situations are not, you can say, fruitful for a crash, or such type of crashes are not crash worthy, I can simply say in these terms. Now second is the load sensors. So load sensors are also mounted in different critical regions of a dummy, like in a head or in chest, in thighs. So these load sensors, what it will do, it will measure the amount of force generated in the human body due to a crash, right? And this is a graph plotted of the forces generated in the chest of a human dummy which is placed in the vehicle. And you can see whenever the vehicle is undergoing a crash, so there is a compression force generated. There is a compression force generated in the chest of the dummy. Why the compression force? Because of the seat belt, I can say, fine. So what is happening here, if the compression force is very high, that means your chest is undergoing a compression very at a very high rapid speed, which is again not, if it crosses a particular limit, a particular biological limit, fine, that will be dangerous for the passenger. So this will be recorded according to the load sensors. Okay, what is the maximum amount of compression under which the chest undergoes, fine. Accordingly there will be changes made, maybe in the seat belt tensioners or maybe in the design. Next is a movement sensor. Movement sensor is basically mounted in the chest of the, you can say again, in the dummy, so that we can record the maximum movement of the dummy during a crash. Fine. The movement should also be slow. The movement should also be slow. It should not be very high, because if the movement during a crash is very high, again there are chances of compression of the body, and there are chances of collision of the body in different parts of the car. So movement should also be slow, and this data will be recorded by the movement sensor. Okay. Next is a paint. Some kind of paints are also used in a crash test dummy. You can see this image. The, you can say, the face of this dummy is painted blue. Okay, and the, you can say, knee of the um, the knee of the dummy is painted some other colors. Okay, so maybe the I think it's the red color. And so why these paints are used in the dummy? Because see, suppose when after the test, after the crash, the body, the internal component or the internal compartment, the passenger compartment, will be studied by the researchers, and they will check what are the colors which are imprinted on different parts of the car. Suppose if this car undergoes a crash, so this dummy may collide with different parts, different objects of this car, fine. So if the blue color is found on the airbag, that means it is clear that the dummy has been in contact with the airbag during a crash. But suppose if this blue color is also on the windshield, that means dummies are also collided with the windshield. Okay, and similarly if this red color is there on the, you can say, on the dashboard, that means the knee is also, you can say, collided with the dashboard. So due to this color, they can identify that which part of the human body has made contact with which part of the car after the or during the crash, right? Same point have been discussed here also. You can see the dashboard they have different colors over here. Blue color is also there, red color is also there. That means the passenger knees have hit the dashboard. Okay, so such type of, and you can see from here there are no external components like engine have came inside of the passenger compartment due to the crash. So this is a safer type of test we can consider, because none of the external components have moved inside the passenger compartment. So there are certain reference videos available on YouTube for the same topic for different types of crash tests. I would recommend you to go through them and study this crash test phenomena very well. Thank you.